The Memory of Love, Chapter 50. A silver sea, smooth and still. The reflection of a girl moves across the surface. A few clouds in the sky, elliptically shaped, like a school of porpoises. Here and there, other girls float undisturbed on the water. On the shoreline, a mother and her toddler. The child, wearing red Wellington boots, is running through the surf away from his mother, looking over his shoulder at every turn to make sure she is following. Adrian can hear darling through the glass the sound of the mother's voice. She is smiling and at the same time calling warnings. A perfect autumn day, thinks Adrian. Busy looking over his shoulder, the child loses direction and veers into the sea. Water splashes over the top of his boots. Now the mother is pulling them off and pouring the water out of each one. She is holding the child tight to her in one arm. His feet dangle several inches above the sand. But the child struggles to be free, and so the mother sets him down. He runs away. The mother follows behind, carrying the boots. The child runs away, shrieking, giddy with freedom, his blonde hair blown about in a wind of his own making. No biscuits, sorry darling. I should have got some in, but I only drive into town once in a while, and I don't eat them anymore myself. When you called, I had no idea you'd be here quite so quickly. It's fine, says Adrian. He turns away from the window and the boy moves to take the tea tray from his mother and set it down upon the low table. He says, you must spend a lot of time just looking at all of this. His mother nods. It's never the same from 1 hour to the next. It's the sky, you know. People complain Norfolk is flat, but they are looking in the wrong place. You need to lift your head. It's the sky that matters. Of course you know that. I forgot sometimes. He'd arrived the evening before in a tepid light, feeling drained by the long drive from London. During supper, eaten on their knees opposite each other in the sitting room, he'd been more aware of the reflections on the glass of his mother entering and leaving the room than of what lay beyond the darkness. The meal they ate was sparing, his mother's once lush cooking sacrifice to the austerity of cholesterol and blood sugar levels. They had not spoken of his reason for being there. Adrian had volunteered nothing, and his mother had not asked. Her forbearance itself a clue as to how serious she must imagine it to be. She had opened a bottle of rather good wine, a gesture he felt was replete with solace as much as celebration. Ileana had driven him to the ferry which would take him across to the airport. The plane flew into darkness across the Sahara, and this time Adrian did not see the dunes or the dust rising up to the aircraft's wings. When he woke up, they were over mountains, the Alps perhaps. The plane touched down in the early morning. The airport brightly lit, cold and empty. Passports were checked at frequent intervals. From the airport, Adrian had rented a car and driven straight to Norfolk. The pace of cars on the road shocked him. Milk? Yes, please. Fresh milk. And yet he finds himself so used to the faint metallic flavor of the tinned variety, he missed it. The previous evening, both Adrian and his mother had retired early. Adrian pleaded exhaustion, feeling at the same time alive with nervous energy. After his mother had gone to bed, he left his bedroom and returned to the sitting room to read the paper and then to watch the news on the 24-hour television news channel. The flickering television images reflected on the obsidian wall. So much seemed to have happened while he had been away. By the time he watched the bulletin on its third loop, the stories had all become familiar. Once in the night, he'd woken to a strange noise, like the call of a night bird. He laid his head down, listened to the sound of the sea, a giant's slow breathing. After a few minutes, he dropped into a deep sleep, lasting 7 hours. He woke to a pale amber early autumn day. The sea was still, the tide far out, miles of glowing wet sand. He watches his mother pour the tea with her free hand, smooth back a single lock of silver hair that dips into her eyes. The number of sculptures on the lawn had grown since last he was here. Something that looked like a horizontal Stonehenge, a man and a woman. He composed of jagged rocks, she of smooth round pebbles. A cleft stone at the meeting of her thighs. After breakfast, they'd taken a walk down the beach, during which Adrian told his mother the reason for his return, and his mother listened in between, picking up pieces of gypsum and occasional pebbles, ramming them into her trouser pockets, until she bulged like a child, with pockets full of tack and conkers. Once she had stopped and looked at him, shading her eyes from the sun, her expression thoughtful and serious. But in the end, she'd said nothing more than, And then, see, looks like amber. Of course, it's not. Tossed the pebble back among the others. Finally, you seem to have given it a great deal of thought. They walked in silence for half an hour more and climbed a dune at the far end of the beach. Once or twice, Adrian stopped to extend a hand to his mother, but she waved him away, a somewhat terse gesture, made as it was in silence. At the top, they sat and looked out over the sea. His mother plucked a blade of grass, put the end in her mouth, lay back on the rough grass, and closed her eyes. She remained still so long, he began to think she'd fallen asleep. Finally, she said, "Does Lisa know you're here?" "Not yet." "Have you thought about Kate?" "Of course I have. I think about her constantly. Nowadays, I suppose you follow your dreams." Her tone lacking the true spirit of accusation, so very matter of fact, made him feel whimsical and foolish. Without waiting for an answer, she stood up, not bothering to shake the grass seeds from her hair or brush the sand from her trousers. He followed her down. They'd lunched in the sun next to the open window, ham, boiled eggs, and salad. Hard to imagine this as the same sun that bore pitilessly down upon the equator. The water, the same body of water, reached from here to there at some point, changing color from gray to blue, silver to green. Adrian thought of Mama Kay and imagined her practicing her clarinet. The thought occurred to him. He had never heard her practice. Only once he arrived unexpectedly to a yard full of music. Mama Kay playing below, her neighbor and fellow band member on his trombone above, an improvised serenade. He wonders what Mama Kay is doing at this moment. Only an hour's time different. The sun will be at its height. After lunch, his mother lit a cigarette, something he had never seen her do. I know, she caught his look and shrugged. What, frankly, does it matter? She set the light on the table, a heavy ivory table lighter he recognized as once having belonged to his grandparents. After lunch, she put him to work on a small series of jobs. Her television aerial, loosened by the wind, swung back and forth, issuing a mournful plea. Every time the wind blew, he'd fetched a ladder and climbed up to the roof, discovered it to be the source of the sound he had heard in the night. A piece of tar paper had come loose, and Adrian called to his mother to bring roofing nails and a hammer. Was surprised when her head appeared over the horizon of the roof. "How long are you staying?" she asked as she handed the hammer to him. "I'm not sure yet, a day or two, maybe longer." He wasn't as sure of his place here as he'd been while she remained in the cold house. "Good, then perhaps you can help me with something. A small deck at the front, can't possibly do it on my own. I was going to hire somebody, one of those Eastern European fellows. But now you're here. Shouldn't take too long with two of us at it." And she disappeared again, taking his assent for granted. "I'll make tea," she called. A low sun strikes the room. Dust might spin slowly in the air, are sent rushing in one direction and then another by the occasional movement or drought. The hum and tap of a dying blue bottle. A lone dog searches the waterline. No sign of an owner. On the edge of the frame, a boat with a blue sail disappears behind a curve of rock. Now, a boat will be a fine thing, says his mother, as though apropos of a continuing conversation. What kind of boat? A sailing boat, something reassuringly solid and wooden. The sort of thing the owl and the pussycat would have owned. She laughed lightly, held together by layers of varnish. Sail away for a year and a day, says Adrian. And then so suddenly he's surprised by himself. Did you ever think of leaving, Dad? A pause. His mother pours milk into her tea and sets the jug down, carefully upon the tray. Your father was ill. He needed me. I would never have left. But I mean, didn't you? She interrupts as though this is something she is sure of. Never. They drink their tea more or less in silence. Adrian tries to apologize, but she brushes him off. He notices a stillness has come over her, and he regrets his incautious. He'd been enjoying the new ease they had found in each other's company. While his mother is clearing the kitchen, for she will hear nothing of him helping, Adrian stands outside in a new breeze. Beneath his feet, the grass is springy, growing in tufts upon the sandy earth. He notices one of his mother's sculptures, a great abstract snail, its shell a curl of seashells, of decreasing size. There is another, a feather, the veins of which are composed of dozens of real feathers, a piece of driftwood, several feet long, from a particular angle. It resembles an animal, balanced upon its back, a second piece of wood, a dark twisted limbs, a boy perhaps straddling the back of a great bear. Adrian looks out to the horizon. Upon the sea, white horses have begun to form. Watching them, Adrian feels on the brink of something momentous, like a sailor embarking upon a voyage hundreds of years ago. He does not feel afraid, and nor does he feel courageous. The only emotion he is aware of, in addition to the surge of feeling and experiences when he thinks of Mama Kay, is shame, hot and heavy as tar. His mother joins him outside. What would you like for supper? We've only just had lunch, I know. Still, these things have to be planned. Always did, she smiles. Children took so much for granted. Children took happiness for granted. Why don't I take you out? Says Adrian. Oh no, it would be a waste. Come on, let's do it. Where would you like to go? Where's good around here? Well, if you insist, we could drive up the coast. There's a pub I've been a few times. Fine, I'll book it then. And she turns back into the house. At 5 o'clock, they return from the garden center for the remainder of the afternoon, and into the early evening, Adrian works on the new deck, laying a network of joists on the old concrete patio, checking each joist with a spirit level as he goes. He works stripped to the waist. The sun is warm on his back. An occasional tear of sweat runs into his eye. He has reached an age, he realizes, when he considers manual labor to be somehow rewarding. Today in particular, he welcomes the refuge it offers, concentrating upon his hands, forces him beyond the vortex of his own thoughts. A goal, he will have the frame ready before they go out to eat. He straightens to review his work, feels the aches and release almost pleasurable in his vertebrae and muscles of his back, standing amidst the cross batch of wooden beams as if upon a raft, the sharp scent of fresh timber mingled with the sting of salt. Elias Paul had not sent Babagale to Adrian in the weeks leading up to Adrian's departure. Adrian passed by, the old man's room several times to be told he was indisposed. He wondered whether he'd pushed him too far at their last meeting. Adrian said goodbye to Mrs. Mara and the other members of staff. Though he'd not seen Kai once, Kai was avoiding him. Adrian felt certain and knew that he too was guilty of the same. He wasn't entirely sure of the reason for his behavior, which he had declined to examine too closely. Adrian is not, he tells himself, a jealous man. But then there was the constant sense he had of something lingering. How alike they were in many ways, Kai and Mama Kay, like siblings really, in the way they both resolutely occupied only the present, kept doors closed, showing only what they chose to reveal. Both Kai and Mama Kay had places from which all others were excluded, from which Adrian was excluded. Even now, the fear coiling around his heart is that in those closed-off places is something the two of them share from their past, some act of emotion, incomplete, requiring an ending. Is he doing the right thing? Sometimes he feels he is losing his mind. Damn, a splinter of wood slides under the nail of his forefinger. The pain is pinpoint and exquisite. Adrian presses down on the bed of the fingernail and then sucks the end of his finger. The sky has sulphurous crust. Dark clouds boil on the horizon. Adrian's mouth tastes of blood and iron. A drop of rain touches his skin, and then another. Within moments, the sun is turned dull and the pebbles sleep. Adrian collects the tools he has been working with and goes back inside the house. In the shower before dinner, hot water pouring down upon his shoulders, he thinks of her at times like this. In the heat of the bathroom, he could be in her apartment. He feels his body's response, turns his face up to the shower head, holds his breath. In his mind, he watches her coming towards him. What does she do? A short time later, he lets his hand fall back to his side, watches the semen swirl and slide away with the water. The outward tension briefly is dissipated. The yearning inside remains. The place is more of a restaurant than a pub. Interconnecting dining rooms, tile floor and green painted dado rail. On the wall opposite, Adrian is a portrait of a woman cast in a shadow garden room light, who might be Virginia Woolf. He watched his mother as she reached the menu through her spectacles. She has dressed for the occasion, exchanged her corduroys for a pair of velvet trousers and a velvet shirt. At the door, a man, the restaurant's owner, had greeted her with some familiarity. So Adrian struggles to imagine his mother coming here. With whom? Who are her friends here? He wonders. He catches himself. The same challenge for every one of us, he thinks, to release our parents from the bondage of our own imagination. He lowers his head to the menu. His mother's orders with confidence. Adrian less so, unsettled by so many choices in the end. He duplicates her choice, then changes his mind and orders local crab followed by duck. Several times he lifts his wine glass to his lips. He feels, if he is honest, a little detached from reality. Mama Kay, Ileana, the words of chained men, all there where he left them. He wonders about Adekali and whether his nightmares are troubling him, whether he is remembering to practice going to his special place. Practice, Adrian told him before he left. Keep control of your own mind. The group sessions were planned to continue without him. The football games, though, had to be cancelled. What he appreciates about his mother now, he thinks about it, is that to her he can, if he chooses, talk about such things. Never does she make him feel as though his work, his dealings with the darker side of human lives, is something he must keep to himself. As if Shah's talk was somehow embarrassing for polite company. Did not go alongside goat's cheese and greasing ham duck. He realizes too that all this means nothing to him. Places like this restaurant, fine wine, he could enjoy it all, but somewhere in the last year it had ceased to matter. An elderly couple make their way across the span of the dining room, telltale trembling in his limbs. Adrian feels his heart constrict. He glances at his mother and finds her looking at him. They take dessert and coffee in the bar, sitting side by side on a cushioned bench. It made him so angry, his mother says, stirring crystals of brown sugar into her coffee. What made you angry? Your father. His illness made him angry. It frustrated him. He took it out on you sometimes. He took it out on you as well. Oh, his mother picked up her coffee cup in both hands. That didn't bother me. I understood. There were so many reasons he was angry. The disease, the way it crippled him and took the ears away. But I always felt he was angry for me, not angry with me. What does that mean? He was angry with himself on my behalf. At the beginning, he would disappear into these long, dark days. He felt I never should have married him. We came here a couple of times before we married. Of course, it was very different then. Your father had a motorbike when I met him. He bought it as sidecar for it. I couldn't squeeze into it once. I was pregnant. But we kept it until the year after you were born. We took you out in it once or twice. We got stuck in the sand right here. She points with her spoon in the direction of the beach. What a hoot. We came in here afterwards to dry off. They had rooms back then. Adrian sits quietly for a moment. He cannot remember his father as anything other than brooding and intense. He has no memory of the sidecar, not unsurprisingly. He does, though, have a memory of a photograph of it. A man astride the motorbike and the empty sidecar. It was a black and white photograph with crenulated edges. They printed them smaller in those days. Odd, he remembers it so clearly. It must have been taken with a camera that was already old. Adrian had always thought that the image was of his grandfather. So it was his father. His mother presumably had been behind the camera. And how did you feel? Me? I thought it was hilarious. I don't mean about the sidecar. I mean, were you angry that he became ill? Only at God and the angels. We knew, you see, even though the doctors misdiagnosed it at first. They thought it was thyroid related. But your father had had an uncle with the disease, and he reckoned he knew better and that the doctors were wrong. It turned out he was right. He never hid it from me. I was the one who insisted on the wedding. He was angry because the miracle we assumed would happen when we were young and in love never materialized. She smiles and stares into her cup before setting it down on the saucer. She draws a finger across her dessert plate to collect the last of the cream, puts it in her mouth. He couldn't stop himself envying you, but he was so proud of you. If there's one thing he would have wanted, it would be to see you become the person you were meant to become. 3 days later, Adrian stands in front of the long window. The last of the moon is reflected in the silver of the sea. The darkness is giving way to dawn. A fine mist slips in and out of the faraway dunes. He slides open the door and steps barefoot outside on the new deck. The scent of wood resin hangs heavy in the cool air. He walks down to the grass and then to the shoreline. He picks up a flat stone and sends it skimming across the surface of the water. 1, 2, 3. The stone sinks out of sight. 6 hours later, he turns the wheel of his rental car, heads off the motorway, onto the slip road, and into the London-bound traffic.